Hello, hello. Wake up, baby. Time to make up. Time to quake in those Miami Lakes. 'Cause I got me's a monster, baby. Look at that, huh? Look at that. Yeah. All right, look. I have been wandering all over this world, searching for something I just couldn't find. Seems like I'm moving in search of myself. Da 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 mine. All the lands that I love, the lands that I love, all the seas that I sailed, can't compare to you now. My heart is in your hands. Life. We are one. We won, right? I love to speak candidly. You know what I'm saying? I like going off the dome, just spitballing, you know what I'm saying? Just, kind of speaking my mind. I took a nap today and woke up feeling a little something strange. I was feeling a little bit like, oh man, like some kind of anxiousness, some kind of, something churning inside me, and it got me to come back to prayer, you know what I'm saying? Come back to God, come back to the Lord, the core, the source. I started saying to myself, Lord, just saying like, liberate, we must, this life, how do we define it? I feel like we define this life by our language. Simple, right? We define it by our energy, our spirit, we define it by the music. We define this life in so many ways, I started thinking about writing, because it's been a long time since I felt like I made any real progress on my book. But I saw Limitless last night. Great movie. A bit gory. A bit, there's a couple scenes in there which is, make you, you know what I'm saying? But really good movie. Good messages. Cool themes, very well done. And I started thinking about that movie and what would I do and so forth and whatnot. And this brings me to what I was writing about. I started writing a little bit about consciousness. I started talking about that movie because he was a writer that had not finished his book, and that reminded me, of life like that. I know what that feels like, because I've had a number of people there for me, so many people investing in my work, in my writing, people who have encouraged me, asking me about it, and it's cool. Sometimes there's a little bit of an edge in the question, or, the encouragement. There's a little bit like, what happened to that book, or, what I'm saying? But I know it's because they know it's real. They know it's, my knowledge is helpful. So, I'm coming back to it. And I started thinking about, I started going through, I got my writing here on the phone. So I could kind of go into a little bit, but I'm just going to keep going with what I got here, okay? And what I got to say is curiosity. I was talking with my friend the other day, and we talked about curiosity and how it killed the cat. The satisfaction brought it back. Because I just thought, man, that's a great addition. You know what I'm saying? That's a great way to put it. Okay? Because yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember at various times in my life, there were points where it was like, someone may have kind of pointed out that curiosity, my roommate, I know my great town crier of a roommate, way back in college, he would, talk to me about curiosity. While we must learn inwardly, we must also understand that the world around us is not just to be, we learn from it. Curiosity is a good thing. And I think that sometimes curiosity, with quotes like curiosity killed the cat, we're kind of warned or, set into a box. But you know what? Before I go off too much into this topic, I did want to, I can't help but remember my brother, Young Jin Gomez. He is still out there, and we are, still looking for him. So, we really appreciate the prayers. There's a fundraiser going now. Check it out on the family's page. Our brother is a very loved, wonderful guy. I would love to hear from him. I would love to hear from his family that, he finally came back. So I just got to mention that. Please, check out the family, the Gomez's, page. Give what you can. Just to let us know how things are going. It would bring great relief to many people that he would come home. So I got to mention that. I'm going to tie this in with what I'm saying. Curiosity. I know I'm curious at times about people in my life. Time goes by and I wonder how people are, whatever level of quote unquote level of life they're at, whether they're doing well or not so well, or, whatever, however they're feeling, whatever the situation is, it's good for me, as much as I have enjoyed meeting people, I feel like, what can I say? A familiar face is always quite comforting. And for someone like Youngjin, and the whole family, I get curious, I wonder about how people doing. I think that I think that we often our curiosity is curbed because things happen where we feel like we've crossed the line. Something like, why are you asking that? It's too many questions. Or, it's on a need to know basis, or TMI, or, these types of things. My buddy was just talking to me about this. He's asking a question and we was met with a rebuttal of kind of back off, buddy. And, and there's other examples, But I think these things happen in life. And, with respect, we kind of go back to ourselves. But I wanted to get to this point of curiosity as a kind of core of consciousness. For me, I feel quite infinitely curious. Let me go to Proverbs 25:2 real quick. It is a matter of God to conceal something, and it is the glory of kings to seek it out. You know, why are we here? You know, what is the truth? Why did these things happen? Who did this? For what reason? Is it true? You know, I think that, like, you know, curiosity is a core piece of consciousness. I think that, you know, yeah, we become callous. I think there's a callousness in our consciousness when that curiosity gets curbed to such a point where, I mean, I'm speaking from my own, you know what I'm saying? I know how it goes. Good evening, great auntie. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Sending love. Yeah, hope you're doing well. Please feel free to chime in at any time. But yeah, I think that we all kind of just love learning, you know what I'm saying? And I think that the core of curiosity is in each other, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, some people might say control. I was reading, you know, I've been reading from Millionaire Success Habits, and Dean Graziosi goes into how he discovered in himself that control was a big part of, you know, kind of a core driving force in his life. And I'm not going to say it's bad, but I have talked about how, you know, spiritual teachers throughout time have talked about how, you know, control can be, you know, what are you controlling? You know what I mean? We often will talk about how, you know, organized religions or governments or large bodies, you know, attempt to control the masses. When control can be needed, a lot of times it's abused, right? So again, I'm not saying that it's bad to have control over your life. That's kind of discipline, right? But I think that the reason why I'm bringing it up is because, you know, I think that, like, curiosity, you know what I'm saying? Like, curiosity in couples, you know what I mean? Like, it's still connected to control in a way. It could be. Because we want to have control over our own life, and as we're all connected, we want to have control to some degree over our relationships. You know, we want to have that comfort. We want to have that sense of stability. You know, these things are sought after quite naturally. But I think that this curiosity, for me anyway, it's, I mean, I might say it's insatiable because I just love learning. I've discovered so many things. I've discovered many mysteries. You know, I continue to seek out mysteries, continue to seek out the paranormal as I've experienced it, continue to, you know, seek out the solutions and answers. I feel like, again, going back to how curiosity is really, you know, again, it's kind of like, while it may give us control, it also gives us understanding, gives us strength. Because when we understand, we can endure. And I think that, you know, it brings me to what people are curious about. You know, I want to share in a curious endeavor. You know what I'm saying? I want to share in a curious endeavor. I feel like in the world, a lot of times, you know, we want that controlled curiosity. We go to the tube, right? We go to the TV. We go to, you know what I'm saying, a kind of contained curiosity. And I'm not, you know, it is what it is. But I think that raw curiosity in the flesh, in the present, with person-to-person discovery, right? And again, like, in a non kind of controlled environment, while I cannot emphasize how important safety is, you know, in those situations, I think there is an element of great reward there, right? Great fulfillment. Because, yeah, it's like, even satisfaction. Yes, yes, yes. I don't think I'm familiar with it, but I'm intrigued. And yeah, I talk about the curiosity. Yeah, because what can I say? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm curious about, yeah, like, to me, okay, when I ask, what are you curious about? Because like I was saying, shared endeavor. If we're both curious about a common, common goal, there's a effortlessness, there's an effortless, union there. So, I feel like when we have that common curiosity, it can unite us in, uncovering what is concealed, and receive that glory for the royalty. You know what I mean? I think that, yeah, I feel like, I'm not going to say I feel like life is too short, even though I kind of do. But I guess it's like, currency, you know what I mean? I've been talking about money and currency. I was talking with one of my buddies today about investments and, different things. And again, it's kind of like it's a matter of life. You know what I mean? Money, it is how things roll. It's not bad. Not bad per se, right? It's not bad. But once we have that money, right, we're still curious, right? We're still maybe, are we content? Does that money bring contentment? Maybe so. I know it does in some ways. There's a great Sikh teacher who talks about, well, actually, it wasn't a Sikh guy, as well as another financial person that talks about the great myth of how money is not is bad, or this myth and whatnot, because obviously money is simply a tool and it can be used in good ways. And so I think curiosity over currency, over what is not counterfeit, what I'm saying, is fine. But I think that true contentment, while can be found with money, or partially at least, I think it's something, that is, again, just merely a moment. It's just merely a phase. And, yeah, we still go on. You know what I'm saying? We still go on. I'm going to take a moment here to just take a breather, so bear with me, okay? You can take a look at this beautiful scenery right here, see? I actually can't really. It's not so good the way it looks here, but let's just set this down. Just taking a breather, so hold on. Bear with me. Well, we may not be able to take the money with us. We can leave it behind, you know. We can create. Oh, there we go. I'm back. Okay. So while we cannot take, certain things with us, we cannot take the currency with us, we can leave that current behind, right? And it may not be able to be appreciated the same as those who got it, who sought it, found it. But, it can become appreciated. And this brings me back to consciousness, because what happens after this life is up for, curious inquiry. Excuse me. What we do know is that life continues. We know that life goes on, that consciousness goes on with or without our consent. Okay, well, we do know that. And for that reason, what are we, I feel like, curiosity is, something that I'm going to be exploring more of. I'm going to be exploring more curiosity. A coworker of mine gave me this idea. I've had this idea for a while, but, kind of questioning people, asking people what they're curious about, just on the street, wherever, because, and again, that's why I throw it back to you. Please let me know. I may not, whatever. But I feel like, it's just, curiosity may have killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back, right? Because once we have an answer to that curiosity, there's contentment, there's fulfillment, there is calm. And, I don't think it's wrong to ask questions. You do gotta, find that ebb and flow. Sometimes we don't want to ask too many questions, or, what I'm saying? But I think questions are good. What can I say? I mean, with the internet, we just have an endless flow of content. And that's why for me, I'm curious about the things, I'm curious sometimes, I guess, about the callousness, not because I'm trying to draw attention to it, but I think callousness sometimes requires a little bit of care, a little bit of, it kind of deserves a cat, what I'm saying? It deserves to be caressed, the callousness, I think blocks us from being curious, keeps us in a box, it keeps us ignorant, you know what I mean? Keeps us, disconnected or, separated. And so I think sometimes understanding where the callousness comes from, understanding the trauma, understanding the failure, my mom would always say, again, sometimes you got to break a bone back, for it to heal right. That's kind of what I'm saying. If you're too afraid to have, the curiosity to explore the opportunity of recovery, explore the, the cure, I mean, every, there's that Derek Jeter quote, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take type of thing, It's like you got to keep swinging, you know what I'm saying? And it will be finished for you, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like, so much can be accomplished, so much can be accomplished when we know, I mean, think about work, right? Think about work, or think about community collaborations. Think about things that get done on a large scale that grant great results for everybody. It's because that we know there's a solid foundation. And how do we know what is a solid foundation? By testing it out. You know what I mean? And I think that while ultimately we cannot know everything, I think we can, I think we can surprise ourselves with how much we know. If we know the core principles, if we know the core concepts, if we know the core elements, the fundamentals, if we know, looks like we got something happening here. Yes. If we know a great depth of something, we can accomplish more, So I think that, while we don't always have time to ask endless questions, while we don't always have time, to, let me see, hold on a second, I gotta check the time here. Okay. While we don't always have endless time to get to know everything, I think, it's good to take a chance. It's good to, keep pursuing your passion. Keep asking questions. You know what I mean? You may not get an answer. You may get rejected. You may, these things. What can I say? I don't know when it will stop. Because I don't know why. What's so scary about about the answers? I know one thing. Eckhart Tolle in his book, connection. Somebody could be afraid of connection. Somebody might feel like, oh well, mind your business, right? Or someone might feel like, I've got enough. I don't need, I don't need more of this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a lot of different reasons why things could be prevented, good things from happening. But I feel like, I feel like it's little by little, it's step by step that the little drop of water cracks the callus back open. Small drops. And really, well, yeah, so let me go back to Eckhart Tolle for a second. What was he saying about, he said something that I gotta come back to, but, I feel like, anyway, for me anyway, I just feel like, it's a great thing to know. It's a great thing to understand, the core of who we are as consciousness, as pure, as pure awareness, as a creator, that is creating, and that's the thing. Oh yeah, this is what Eckhart Tolle said. He said that sometimes there is a unconscious fear that one is bad. Sometimes people don't want to ask too many questions about themselves, or don't want to, because there's a fear of persecution, or there's a fear of discovering, maybe my motivation wasn't so good, But I think that, like, truth be told, if you ask and you receive, that understanding that the core of consciousness is kind of that. It's like, it's pure. It's sometimes not necessarily, I mean, to me, I would call it compassionate. You know what I'm saying? I would call it curiosity. But I think that basically, of course, again, there are callousnesses. There are, you know, things that are not so cute. But I think that, like, you know, as you question, as you continue to grow, and as you continue to thicken your skin, as you continue to understand, you know what I mean, that little bumps in the road don't have to bring us to a stop. You know, they don't have to prevent us ultimately from growing, you know, to our full potential, reaching, you know what I'm saying, that the destiny, I think, is, yeah, I encourage you to do that. Yeah, because one thing we never know, right, is, unless we ask, you know what I'm saying? You never know unless you ask, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so basically I'm sending out love. I'm trying to, you know, get more of this writing done. For me, it's fun. It's cathartic. It's cathartic, like curiosity. And I think I'm gonna have to probably bring this to an end in a moment. I think it's comedic too. You know. Yeah, there might be tragic moments. You know, there might be tragic moments, but I think that. Hold on a second.
Hey, Sam, is it okay if I'll use the car?
Yeah, yeah.
Alright,
Okay,
thanks.
perfect.
Get the pizza for
You
Thai and
got the key? Okay.
Yeah, I got that screw on. Are you leaving or?